Hey, deep divers. So today we're going to be looking at, well, the chances of humanity going extinct, which is a pretty cheerful topic, right? We've got some sources here.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Even if the world ends, at least we'll be well informed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's important to just approach this with like a critical eye. We're not just like, speculating here.
Right.
We're going to look at like actual theories
Yeah.
and arguments and stuff.
So one of the sources talks about this thing called the Doomsday argument. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
It's like this.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It uses probability to kind of like estimate how long humanity has.
Yeah. It's like, imagine a giant urn filled with numbered balls, right? Yeah, I'm picturing this. And you don't know how many balls are in there.
Oh.
But you get to pick one out at random.
Okay, got it.
And so let's say you pull out ball number 7.
Okay.
Does that tell you anything about how many balls are likely to be in the urn?
Well, if I pull out number 7, it seems more likely that there are only, say, like 10 balls in the urn. Like if there are a million balls, the chances of me picking number 7 seem much smaller.
Right, exactly. And so the doomsday argument kind of applies that same logic to humans, where it's like, okay, you are roughly the 100 billionth human to be born.
Okay.
So if humanity was going to continue for trillions more births, statistically, it seems less likely that you would have been born so early in the timeline.
Whoa. So just by being alive now, this doomsday argument suggests that we're closer to the end of humanity than the beginning.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Okay.
It's like a reverse lottery. The fewer total humans there are, the higher your chances of being born early in the sequence.
Okay, that's kind of blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, are there any problems with this doomsday argument? It seems a little bit too simple.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest criticisms is this thing called the reference class problem.
Okay.
Which is the doomsday argument kind of assumes that we are a random sample of all humans who will ever exist.
Okay.
But think about it, like, what if future humans are radically different from us?
Right.
Like, imagine a future where humans have merged with technology or evolved in ways we can't even imagine.
Right.
Would we still be a representative sample?
That's a good point. It's like comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Maybe all humans across time aren't the right group to be making these calculations about.
Yeah, and it really raises the question of, like, what even is a human in this context?
Right.
Are we talking about biological humans only?
Right.
Or does it include, potential future forms of intelligent life that might evolve from us?
Right.
The doomsday argument doesn't really account for all those nuances.
So it's not like a perfect prediction or anything, but it definitely makes you think. The source also mentions that, like, humans are pretty good at overcoming challenges. Like, maybe we'll find a way to kind of dodge whatever extinction level event comes our way.
Yeah, human ingenuity and adaptability are definitely factors to consider.
Right.
But on that note, we should probably address the Fermi paradox.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever heard of that?
The whole where is everybody thing.
Yeah, exactly.
When it comes to aliens.
Like, the universe is vast.
Yeah.
And ancient.
Yeah.
So if intelligent life is common, shouldn't we have found some evidence of it by now?
Right.
And this eerie silence is what's known as the Fermi paradox.
Yeah.
And so one possible explanation is this theory called the Great Filter.
The Great Filter. Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
So the Great Filter is this hypothetical barrier that prevents civilizations from reaching a certain level of technology or longevity.
Oh.
It might be something that wipes them out before they can make their presence known to the rest of the universe.
Oh.
And the fact that we haven't encountered any other advanced civilizations yet might suggest that this filter exists.
So you're saying that this filter could be extinction itself?
It's possible.
And that maybe most civilizations don't make it past a certain point.
Yeah, it's a chilling thought.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if humanity is heading towards a similar fate.
Okay, so we've got the doomsday argument, suggesting that our time might be limited, and the Fermi paradox hinting at a potential great filter that could wipe us out. It's enough to make you want to crawl under a rock.
Right.
But before we get too gloomy, our source does bring up another interesting perspective. And this one's a little closer to home.
Okay.
You're talking about the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement.
The Voluntary Human Extinction Movement.
Yeah. This group believes that the best way to save the planet is for humans to stop having children. They're advocating for voluntary human extinction.
Wow.
And I know it sounds crazy, but before you think they're a bunch of crazed doomsday preppers, you know, it's important to understand their reasoning.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm curious to hear more about this. Yeah, they basically argue that humans are inherently destructive to the environment, and that the most ethical choice we can make is to gradually phase ourselves out. It's a pretty radical idea.
So instead of trying to fix the damage we've done, they think the best solution is just to remove ourselves from the equation.
Yeah, kind of. They believe that our impact is just too great, and that the planet would be better off without us.
It's a pretty intense stance, to say the least.
It is. It really challenges our assumptions about the value of human life and our place in the natural world.
I mean, it's not like they're advocating for mass suicide or anything.
Right? No, no, no. It's important to note that they promote a peaceful and non-coercive approach. It's about raising awareness and encouraging individual choice.
Okay, so it's more about prompting us to think critically about our actions and their consequences.
Exactly. Whether or not you agree with their solution, I think the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement raises important ethical questions about our responsibility to the planet and to future generations.
Yeah, it's easy to dismiss them as like a fringe group or whatever, but their perspective does make you think.
Absolutely. They force us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our relationship with the natural world.
This whole conversation about extinction and the end of humanity is kind of a downer, to be honest. Makes you wonder what the point of it all is.
Yeah, I get that. It's natural to feel that way when you're contemplating these big existential questions. But I think it's important to remember that we're not powerless.
So you're saying we shouldn't just give up and resign ourselves to our fate?
Exactly. We have agency. We can make choices that influence the future, both individually and collectively.
So instead of getting bogged down in despair, we should focus on what we can control.
Precisely. Instead of asking, are we doomed? We can ask, what can we do to create a more sustainable and just future?
Right, like supporting initiatives to combat climate change or advocating for policies that protect biodiversity.
Exactly. And making conscious choices in our own lives to minimize our environmental impact.
It's about shifting from a mindset of fear and resignation to one of action and hope.
I love that. Action and hope. That's what we need.
Speaking of action and choices, our source also talks about this really interesting story about an AI that learned to play Tetris.
The Tetris playing AI, okay?
Yeah.
How does that fit into all of this?
It might seem like a random tangent, but trust me, there's a connection.
Yeah.
So this AI, it was created by a programmer named Tom Seven.
Yeah.
And it learned to play all sorts of classic video games like Pac-Man, Space Invaders, all that stuff.
That's cool.
And it was getting really good. Like it was discovering strategies that humans had never even thought of.
That's pretty impressive. AI is definitely advancing at a rapid pace.
Right. So anyway, they decided to have this AI play Tetris.
Okay.
And you know, Tetris is a pretty tricky game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You got to think ahead, plan your moves strategically, avoid stacking the blocks too high.
Right. Otherwise, it's game over.
Exactly. But instead of trying to get a high score, or even just survive for as long as possible, this AI did something totally unexpected.
What does it do?
It paused the game indefinitely.
It just stopped playing.
Yep. It figured out that the best way to avoid losing was to simply not play at all.
Wow. So it found a loophole, a way to avoid failure by opting out of the game entirely.
Exactly. And that's where I see the connection to the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement is non-participation. Or in this case, non-existence, a way to avoid potential negative outcomes.
That's a fascinating parallel.
Yeah.
It's like both the AI and the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement are saying, hey, if you don't want to lose, just don't play the game.
Right. But it makes you wonder, what does it really mean to win in the game of life? Is mere survival enough?
That's a deep question. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I can understand the desire for safety and security, for avoiding pain and suffering. But on the other hand, isn't there something inherently valuable about experiencing life in all its complexity?
You're right. Choosing non-existence might seem like the safest option.
Yeah.
But it also means forfeiting all the richness and beauty of the human experience. The joys, the sorrows, the triumphs, the connections, the love, the creativity, all of it.
So maybe winning isn't about avoiding loss at all costs.
Maybe it's about embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
Yeah.
Even with its potential for pain and disappointment.
Maybe it's about finding meaning and purpose in our lives.
Yeah. About making a positive impact on the world, connecting with others, experiencing the world in all its wonder and complexity.
I like that. That's a beautiful way to put it. But if we reject this idea of simply pausing humanity or opting out of existence, what does that mean for our future?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Like, how do we navigate the very real risks and challenges we face? Climate change, technological disasters, all of that.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to finding a balance.
A balance between
Acknowledging the risks and embracing our potential.
Okay, so we need to be aware of the threats we face.
Yes.
But we can't let fear paralyze us.
Absolutely. We need to be realistic about the challenges, but also believe in our capacity to find solutions.
So it's about informed action, not blind optimism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need both realism and hope.
That actually makes me think back to the Doomsday argument and the Fermi paradox. Instead of viewing them as prophecies of doom, maybe we can see them as calls to action.
I love that, like a wake-up call.
Right.
To remind us of our own mortality and to inspire us to live more intentionally and to make choices that contribute to a better future.
So instead of asking, how much time do we have left?
Yeah.
We can ask, what can we do with the time we have?
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It is. You know, this conversation has actually helped me feel a little less overwhelmed by the whole extinction question. It's like, yeah, the future is uncertain, but we're not just passive passengers. We have the power to shape it.
That's the spirit. It's about recognizing our agency and taking responsibility for our actions.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the Doomsday argument, the Fermi paradox, the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement, and even a Tetris playing AI. What a wild ride.
It has been quite a journey.
So before we wrap up, what are some key takeaways you'd like our listeners to walk away with today? It's kind of like we went from thinking about the end of the world to like rediscovering what makes life worth living.
Yeah, it really is. It's been a journey.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, if you had to pick like one big takeaway from all of this, what would it be?
I think it's that. We shouldn't shy away from these big questions.
Yeah.
Even if they make us a little uncomfortable.
Right.
You know, exploring them can help us live more consciously and make choices that really align with what we care about.
So it's not about ignoring the scary stuff. It's about facing it head on.
Exactly.
And finding ways to deal with it.
Yeah. And remembering that, you know, we're not alone in this. The future of humanity really depends on us working together.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this is making me think back to that idea of pausing humanity.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if we could actually hit a cosmic pause button
Right.
to avoid all the risks, should we?
It's tempting, but who gets to decide what we pause? And for how long?
Yeah, that's true.
And what about all the good things we might miss out on?
Right, all the potential.
Yeah. If we just stop exploring and innovating.
It's a tough one. It feels like maybe that goes against what it means to be human.
Yeah.
You know, like we're curious, we explore, we push boundaries.
It's in our nature.
Yeah. And that can be risky, but it's also how we've achieved so much.
Right. The double-edged sword.
So instead of trying to eliminate risk completely, maybe we should focus on managing it.
Absolutely.
Finding ways to be innovative, but also responsible.
Yeah. Finding that sweet spot between progress and caution.
Right. Between shooting for the stars and, you know, not blowing ourselves up in the process.
Like I say, it's a balancing act.
It is. So
Yeah.
this brings it back to us, like, what can we do in our daily lives to make things better for ourselves and for humanity?
Well, first of all, stay informed, stay engaged,
Okay.
and stay curious.
Yeah.
Learn about the challenges,
Yeah.
but don't let it get you down.
Yeah.
Remember that every little thing you do can make a difference.
So, like, supporting sustainable things, voting for the right people.
Yeah. All of that. And just talking about these issues with your friends and family.
Right. Just keep the conversation going.
Exactly. Because even small actions can have a ripple effect.
They can.
Yeah.
You know what? This whole deep dive has really been eye-opening. It's given me a lot to think about.
I'm glad. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. It's definitely shifted my perspective on some things.
That's the beauty of exploration and critical thinking, you know?
Yeah.
It's about challenging what we think we know and learning and growing.
And ultimately, becoming better citizens of the world.
Exactly.
Well said. So on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought. Something to ponder.
Okay. Hit us with it.
If we could pause humanity's progress to avoid all the risks, should we? Or is pushing forward even with the dangers? What makes being human worth it?
Think about it. Talk about it. And until next time, keep diving deep.
See you next time.